This is our weekly webinar series. My name is Tim Sharkey, and I am with Chicostart, and we're the host of this. Thank you for spending your time and showing up today. Today, we are talking with Jackie McClain, and she is with SCORE, and she has put together a reopening toolkit for small businesses coming out of the COVID-19 quarantine, and how to get your business up and running in a nice constructed manner. So she's gonna walk us through what she's done, and then afterwards, here at Chicostart, we've put together some resources as well, some digital forms to help you share your workplace guidelines with either your employees or your members or your place of work, as well as digital formats where they can accept the terms and conditions, and we'll share those files and items at the end of this. And Jackie?
Okay, before I start going through the slideshow, I would like to say a couple of things, and I will make it quick because we're in short time. The SCORE office, the SCORE webpage, has a wealth of material that's available for free. You don't even have to log in. You go to score.org and there's Browse Library, and there's a library full of templates and documents and resource materials. And next to that is Take a Workshop, and there is a whole horde of workshops there, most of which are free. Few have a nominal fee, but SCORE is about providing as much free assistance to small business as we can. I also would like to give you a law firm that you might want to look at their website, and that is the law firm of Hirschfeld, Hirschfeld, Kramer, Kraemer, and they're a San Francisco employment law firm. I have co-presented with the owner many times, and yesterday they did a legal update on the legal issues associated with reopening, and there are a huge number of those. I didn't have time to incorporate that all in, but I will fold a few things in. The reason that this was originally developed, and it was originally developed by the Central Valley Core chapter or SCORE chapter, was that working with small businesses opening, we see a phenomena that's very similar to going to a swimming pool on a hot summer day and the water's cold. You put your foot in the water. Most people will then just jump right in and get the shock over with. Some people will go in gradually, and we're kind of trying to say to businesses, there are things you should think about either before you reopen or shortly after you reopen to ensure that your business will have long-going stability. We'll be talking about 4 phases of the process that you should go through. I had on the screen there some of the figures. 77% of small business employers are experiencing trouble and expect to experience trouble. 54% think there's going to be a long-term national depression, and 49% have already seen a reduction in their customer flow. Oops, wrong direction. Sorry. I went the wrong direction again. I'm sorry. I'm having technical difficulties. There we go. Those are the 4 steps we're going to be talking about: assessment, accounting, planning, and communicating. And when you start this process, one of the overriding questions you should keep in mind is what is the current status of your business, and what was the status? Were you closed and you're now open? Are you still closed? Did you never close down? And then the second thing that you need to keep in mind is, in all aspects of your business, what direct customer or user contact do you have? Because those are critical things as you design your plan. Keeping that framework in mind, there we go. I've got it going. You need to ask yourself, what's going to be important to your customers when they come back? Are they going to be concerned about coming in the door? Are they going to want to know what health measures you've taken? Are they going to be concerned about the quality of the product that you provide post-COVID-19? Realistically, you also need to assess your financial situation. And this is a time to not be kind to yourself. Take the most critical look at what your financial situation is. Divide it into payroll and non-payroll expenses and think about categories. What is absolutely necessary to open the door? What would be good to have to open the door? And what could we do without? And some of the owners that I've worked with have found that this provided them an opportunity to make changes in their business that they wanted to take, but really didn't have the opportunity before. And when they went through this analysis, they found that there were things that they could get rid of that they really didn't need to have involved in their business. Once you finish with that consideration, and you'll want to pull together all of the financial paperwork you have, the last 2 years of your personal and business tax returns, if you have profit and loss statements. On the screen you see download Excel spreadsheet. On the SCORE web page, there is a template available which has all the formulas in there and allows you to go through several different models of returning and advancing your business. You can get to it by clicking this Excel spreadsheet link, but you can also get to it just by going into score.org, clicking on Browse the Library, and then type in a financial projection template, and that will take you to this tool, which you can then use to consider all of your financials. The next thing that you want to do is to consider what it really takes for you to survive. And that's kind of an absolute minimum consideration that you want to give. Do you have enough cash on hand to open the doors? Do you have enough cash or access to enough cash to operate for the next 3 months? Because that is the estimated period of time before, even if there is no surge, we may be approaching normal customer flow in 3 months. So you need to have enough resources to carry you through that period of time. If you don't, you have 2 options. You can seek an infusion of cash, and you're going to need those profit and loss statements and those financial documents if you're going to talk to either a bank or an agency that has loan money that's available. You may want to look at investors, and they're going to want to see your financials as well. If you are not going to seek an influx of cash and you don't have enough to make it 3 months, you probably should consider making cuts. And our advice is cut early, cut big, and we find that most people need to double the estimate of what reductions they think they're going to have to make to actually succeed. And there's good reasons for doing that. You've seen it all your life with things. If you can't believe my phone's ringing. If you are working on something and you tweak it a little bit, you may have to tweak it again and again, and you get tired of tweaking it. Your customers will get tired of change if you try and phase in cuts. So make the big cut. Then you can expand services, expand the number of people you have, and that will be seen as a positive thing. once you have gone through this kind of an assessment of your of your resources and an accounting in terms of what you need financially, you're ready to start developing a plan. For some reason, this doesn't want to click to take me forward today. I'm going to try rolling it because it's not moving.
Can you do next?
It seems to be locked up. There we go, finally, sorry. As you go into your planning, the things that you need to keep in mind are that your number one priority in terms of health of your business is that you provide safety for your employees, your customers, and your vendors so that people are willing to do business with you. You need to effectively communicate about what we're doing, and we're going to be talking about that more in a little bit. And you need flexibility. We see changes in the directions from CDC and the information we have about this disease on almost a daily basis. You need to be nimble enough to adjust when the factors that impact what you have to do to comply with CDC change. And you have to have a commitment to staying open. And I know that may sound silly, but what we're really trying to say there is you may get a direction in the future from the governor that you have to reclose if there's a surge. But if you start up and then have to back off and close so that you can regroup, you're going to lose your customer base long term. So you need to go into the idea of reopening with a continuous staying open as something that you believe that you want to do. I kind of have moved a piece that's on slide 7 here of the slides that you have up, because as I worked with the legal issues yesterday and I was thinking about this, I believe you need to look at your business design before you look at staffing. You need to examine whether you have physical requirements that are changing and things you're going to have to change about the way you do business. You're going to have to know those things to know how many staff you need and where you need them. Some businesses are finding that the demand for their business as it was structured may have changed and they want to redesign their business. It's just a question you should ask yourself. It also, as I said, is an opportunity to make changes that you've thought about you wanted to do, but you didn't get the opportunity to do in the past. Once you have all of that in mind, you're going to move to thinking about staffing. And you want, when you're thinking about staffing, you want to start out with remembering that you're focusing on providing a safe work environment for your employees and for your customers. You need to think again about what are your immediate needs, what would be the next step of growth, and what do you hope long-term to reach in terms of staffing levels. I think you also need to think about what would be the triggers that would tell you you're ready to move from the immediate model to the intermediate model, and from the intermediate model to the full staffing. And I think you need to have those in mind so that you can be prepared to actually get the staff in place when you need them. One of the things that you need to think about is, as you've had to change your business design or your physical layout in order to comply with these regulations, do you need all the employees you had before doing exactly what they were doing before? And I know a number of businesses had receptionists that they have replaced with a computer sign-in. And in many cases, they then moved the person who had been the receptionist to other duties in their company. In some cases, they indicated to the employee they were not returning them to work because they did not have a place for them to work. I think in being humane with your employees who you have to depend on, you want to do as much as you can to be sure that if their role is eliminated, you examine whether there's a different role they can play before you bring in anybody else. You need to think about whether you're going to have your employees work differently, and what will that mean in terms of flow. And we talk about putting arrows on the floor and having directional flow between, if there is a break room or a restroom, and the workstation, so that people don't run into each other, because you want to keep social distancing throughout your work area. I would say CDC basically says do away with the central lunchroom. If you can't do that, the thing that you need to do is be sure that you provide social distancing, that you don't get too many people in there at once, and that you have the proper sanitation and those things in that area. Keep in mind that your employees might have good ideas about how to change the way that you're doing your work. They should be asked. You don't have to take their advice if you don't like it, but they may come up with some very good ideas that are very helpful to you. One of the things that is a challenge is whether your previous employees are available for you right now. And I know that in the food service and restaurant industries, they have discovered, because they rely heavily on part-time workers, that the changes that were made in unemployment insurance have made it more fiscally attractive for employees to remain on unemployment than it is for them to come back to part-time work. And if that's the kind of situation you're dealing with, you have to decide if you want to change the way you work employees. Do you want to give them more time so that you can get them back? Or do you want to have to deal with going out and seeing if you can find new people who will come in under the old circumstances? There will be things that you need to provide to your employees if they're coming back. If you're going to require masks as an employer, it's your responsibility to provide those masks. If you are going to require, and you should, the sanitizing of the areas, you're going to need to have on hand all the supplies that are necessary to do that. And I know that for SCORE, our instructions from CDC and National are that if we open our office and bring clients in, between clients, we have to wipe down everything: doorknobs, tabletops, computer mouse, the light switch, and the switch on the printer. All have to be wiped down before you bring somebody new in, if you're really following the CDC guidelines. So you need to be sure you can have the supplies on hand that you need to do that kind of preparation. If you're going to have people working at home, you have a different challenge. You need to be sure that they have all the equipment they need at home to do the work. And I know a week ago we heard from someone from Bill.com that even though they were primarily online, to make the change to closing, they had to buy 300 new computers and load their proprietary software on it to give it to the employees to work at home. And again, under California law, if you require someone to do work, you have to provide the reasonable and necessary equipment for them to perform that work. Another aspect of looking at employees is what kind of training will you need. You're going to need to see if they know how to use the personal protection equipment. It sounds silly, but there is a right way to wear the masks. And there is a way to put the mask on that is providing no protection to either you or the people you come into contact with. So you need to be sure that your employees know how to use any protective equipment that you provide for them. You need to be sure that they have training in the cleaning that has to be done, or the sanitation that has to be done, if they're going to have responsibility for that. And you're going to be needing to be sure that they know how to deal with issues that come up. If you're in an area where you're requiring customers to wear masks and a customer comes to the door who says, I'm not going to put a mask on, it's your decision whether you're going to say, I'm sorry, we won't serve you, or you're going to let them come in. But the person who is likely to have that conversation is probably the employee who's working the door area. So you need to be sure they know what your position is and that you will stand behind them if they support the position that you have taken on this issue. Try and move forward again here. There we go. This is the slide that has some of the information about the business design, and I moved all that information forward. So I'm going to move on to looking at issues of supply chain disruption or stopping. And you have to look at what supplies you need to deliver your services. Look at your suppliers. Do they have sufficient supply to be able to meet your needs in the timeline that you needed in order to serve your customers? If not, you're going to have to look for other suppliers that can meet your needs. One of the things you may find, and I know that some businesses have found, that their suppliers are asking for a renegotiated contract because to be in compliance, the supplier has had to add employees or equipment, and their cost is greater, and they want you to pick up part of that cost. So you need to think about what you're willing to do if they ask you to renegotiate. Then the final thing you need to think about here before you develop your communication plan is inventory management. If you have a business that has seasonal inventory, say you have products that were Easter products and you were closed at Easter, are you going to put those out at huge markdown, or are you going to shelve them and use them next Easter? You just need to think through what inventory issues you have. If you have inventory as they do in the food service that's going to time out, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to use it up till the date it times out, or are you going to reduce it and try and get it out of the door earlier? So have in mind what you want to do on inventory management. There we go. Now you're finally ready to do your communication plan. And the aspects of this are who you're going to communicate with. And we say you should communicate with your landlord, particularly if you're having to do a rearrangement of physical space. You need to let them know if you're doing anything that impacts the construction of the space at all. And it's nice to just let them know you've reopened, you're there, and you may have issues with rent that you weren't able to pay while you were closed. You need to work those things through. Creditors will want to know that you're fiscally solvent and you're going to pay your bills. If you can't pay them all right away because you were closed, you need to negotiate with your creditors how you're going to get caught up and keep moving forward so that your business has the supplies that they will give to you. Your employees, you need to communicate with, I think, a minimum weekly, because as I've said, the CDC guidelines and the nature of the information we have about the disease changes so rapidly. You need to be certain that every single employee that you have in your business is aware of what the current rules of operation are and what, if your expectations of them have changed. And finally, you need to communicate with your customers, and that's two bodies: your current customers or your client base, and new customers that you're seeking to bring into the environment. You probably want to use some different communication tools with those two customer groups. What you need to be sure in your communication with all of these groups is that what you are communicating is your new normal. This is the way things are in my business now as we reopen and go forward. And this is the impact it will have on you. Spell that out clearly so that there's, if you're going to require customers to wear a mask, when you communicate with your customers, you should let them know that. One of the restaurants I do business with frequently has been sending emails on every week to let us know how they're moving through and planning to reopen. They're doing carry-out service now and letting us know that because of supply chain issues, they aren't able to prepare their whole menu. And they're sending an email to the people who are on their mailing list to that effect. You may want to put posters on the outside door or in the entryway of your business so that people know before they come in that you have taken steps to protect them as a customer. And if you have requirements like they need a mask, that they will know that before they open the door and come in. There are a variety of tools that are available to you to do this. A personal letter, if you have a small client group, is really a good way to engage those people in coming back. One of the attorneys I work with has sent out personal letters to his current client base. I mentioned emails that I've had one business use that very effectively. Social media, if you have a website or you have a Facebook page, you want to put on those two locations any requirements that you have and information about the steps you're taking to protect your employees and your customers. And finally, phone call. We don't do that much anymore, but small businesses who have a small, discrete client base can use phone calls to get in touch with those customers. And I've really run through this very fast because we're on a short time frame.
They did extend us.
I
just
want
got
to
a
be
message
sure that
they
you
extended our meeting.
I'm sorry?
I got a message from Zoom. They extended our meeting time, so we can go.
Okay. So I just want you to know you're not without help. On the last page of this, the thing we sent out, we put the web page for contacting score.org. And if you call them and you want local help, you click one that find a mentor and they will contact us and we will get in touch with you and you will have local help to assist you with this. Don't try and do this alone. Talk to your peers. Talk to groups like Chicostart. Find out what others are doing and what experience they are having and make that to your good. Is there any quick question that I could try before they're going to cut us off in what, 5 minutes?
No, they extended our time, so.
Oh, okay.
We're good to go.
Any questions?
Just a comment. I haven't started a business yet, really, but except mostly it's going to be online. So
you have a business license. You started a business.
Yeah, I got my business license up there at Chicostart. Yeah. So
Okay. If there are questions, I would be happy if you wanted to contact me, and I will give you my email, which is pretty simple. It's Jackie, Jackie, .McClain, MCCLAIN, @scorevolunteer.org. And
with the different spreadsheets.
I'm sorry?
So going through the different items in the spreadsheets that you were talking about, getting together your financials, is that something you can make an appointment with someone at SCORE to help
Yes.
validate your information that you're putting together in the spreadsheets?
Yes. We have a number of people who have very strong financial experience. One of our volunteers was with a bank and worked with people who had loans that were in trouble for about 20 years. So she's very accustomed to assisting people with getting aid and realistically working through how much aid they can get and how they need to go about it. And most of our advisors have pretty strong financial experience. The majority are retired and the majority own their own business. I happen to be an attorney. I retired as vice chancellor of the CSU system, and I've run personnel operations and public safety operations in 4 states. So I mostly give advice in the legal area, but we have people with expertise in every area, and a lot of our people are very familiar with the kind of spreadsheets and financial information you need to get loans.
So another question. So you were talking about the Hirschfield and Kramer, the law
Yes.
office,
Yes.
on legal issues on reopening. And does that help? Do they also cover like HR issues with your employees?
They have
What you should worry about?
Yeah, I don't advertise for a firm, but I've worked with this firm for years when I was at the CSU system and when I was in Michigan with the University of Michigan. And they have on their website a checklist for reopening that businesses should go through. It's designed for all sizes of business. So there are things on the checklist you won't want to use and you just ignore them. They're for a larger business, but it raises your awareness of things that you do need to think about. They also have on their website link that are changed daily to the federal and state regulations and guidelines that relate to COVID-19. They have recorded past seminars that they have given in this area. So they're an excellent resource. One of the clients that I had that I worked with who had been burned out in Camp Fire, just gotten their business back running when they had to be closed down for COVID-19. And I worked with this person on a repeated basis, and she advised me that she had gone on score.org and looked at their classes, and she took a class that had to do with financial accounting. She said it was a $25 fee, and it's the best $25 I spent in my life, because even though I've been in business for years, I didn't know some of the things that they taught me in that course. So there really are some very good resources out there that are available free. And we just encourage people to do everything they can to get whatever help they need.
So is that accounting thing? Is that on SCORE? Where is that?
The SCORE, the spreadsheet is on SCORE. You go to score.org,
Yeah.
You go to browse the library, and you put in, you want to do financial projection template. That's
Okay.
what the name of the document is, and you can pull it up. They have model business plans. I think most of the business plans they have may be a little more complex than a lot of people want to use. At our office, we do have a simplified sheet for a model business plan, but they have presentations that have been recorded that are available to you about just about every phase of your operation that you could want help with.
Nice. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Jackie, so much.
Thank you for listening. I wish we had had more people, but
well, it's recorded, so we'll take
Right.
this and hopefully we can take it and put it on YouTube.
okay. Well,
And I know Eva is going to be sharing it with.
I will be tweaking this presentation, and I may be putting together one just on the legal issues, because a lot of people have questions about what are their rights as a business owner to require employees to wear masks? What are their rights to require customers to wear masks? What do they do with service dogs? I mean, there are 100 questions that are related to legal issues. And I think I'm probably going to put together a presentation just on the legal issues related to operating a business in COVID-19